This is a test for what may end up being a video podcast. It might end up just being something else. But I felt like I needed to express some opinions that I had, and we'll go ahead and go from there. This morning I read an editorial in the New York Times about basically how we should abolish the Electoral College. It's something that's been around ever since the Constitution was passed, and it's the real way that we elect our president. A lot of people have brought it into question recently because there are times when someone can win the Electoral College and not win the popular vote. And because of that, they said that the Electoral College doesn't accurately or fairly represent the wishes of the American people. Because of that, people say the whole process should just be tossed out the window. There's a couple of problems with that. The first one is that the only way you're going to get rid of it is by constitutional amendment. For those of you that don't know, it requires a supermajority in both houses of Congress, as well as 3/4 of the states, to amend the Constitution. It's a long, drawn-out process. And while the editorial brings up the fact that there are a number of states that have consented to send their Electoral College votes to the winner of the popular vote, it doesn't represent enough to make that a real viable possibility. What I propose is not that we get rid of the Electoral College, because I still believe that the founders, when they set it up, wanted to prevent pretty much mob rule from determining the electoral results. What we should do instead is, instead of making states go all or nothing for one candidate or the other, because in situations like the editorial presented where 40% of Texas voters voted for Barack Obama, and you have states like Florida where almost 50% voted for John McCain, yet the entire state for Barack Obama. We need to have a system wherein each state is more accurately represented. And this is what I propose. I propose that instead of having each state go up or down for one candidate, each state should have their electoral votes apportioned by the congressional districts. After all, the electoral votes in a given state are composed of the number of representatives they have in Congress plus 2 for the number of senators they have. Under my plan, what would happen is that every congressional district would represent one electoral vote. Whichever candidate won the popular vote in that congressional district will win one electoral vote towards the 270 needed to gain the presidency. In addition, the senatorial representative votes from each state would count as 2 bonus points given to the overall popular vote winner in that state, thereby reducing the influence of urban areas versus rural areas and allowing a more representative snapshot of what a state's opinion really is. After all, if we were to take a district by district or a county by county map of some swing states and even some solid states one way or the other, take for example California and Texas, while they voted for 2 separate parties, if you looked at a county by county or a congressional district by district map, you would see that the states were not as blue or red respectively as one would suggest. Now, some of you who may already know about the workings of the Electoral College and the different states may realize that the plan that I've already suggested is basically already in place in a couple of states, namely Maine and Nebraska, who divide part of their electoral votes by congressional districts and the other part by senatorial representation. The reason that this is rarely heard about is because, let's face it, Maine and Nebraska are 2 small states, or 2 small fishes in the big electoral sea. If we made this method work for every state, then we would have a more truly representative picture of what America thinks. Do I think it would have changed this current election? No. But it's something to consider in the future. especially if we're throwing around the thought of having a constitutional amendment, which is a lengthy and very big process. In conclusion, I think it's important that we recognize why the Electoral College as such was created. It was created to preserve the federal nature of the United States government. It is one of the few governments in the world where we do not directly elect our head of state, and that is a product of our federal style of government. To get rid of the Electoral College would completely eliminate that foundation upon which the United States is based. It sounds a little bit grave, but in essence, it's true. That's why I'm for the mending it and not ending it. So what's next, you say? Well, I got this fledgling video log where I sort of talk about stuff, but I really don't have that many topics to talk about. So those of you out there watching, if you'd like to suggest some topics, I'm going to come up with some more of my own. But if you want to hear me just talk about stuff, I would love to see your suggestions. Just write them down there at the bottom. And hey, maybe it'll be included. Probably will, because like I said, I ain't much to talk about at the moment. So looking forward to it. Let me know what you think. Thanks.